What's up, fellas? What's up, fellas? This is your boy Elder. This is the Narrative Talkback. We got a lot to unload. We got a lot to unpackage today, man. And so I have some of my very good friends, my experts with give you some good feedback from different perspectives, different point of views, different angles. So we have Reginald, we have Chris, we have Nate, and we're not going to jump. We take a long time to get this thing popping, man. So today, man, we're going to be talking a little bit what we got going on with the whole Blake Griffin situation. Blake Griffin being timed out. I'm calling Blake Griffin being timed out, and how that impacts our young players going forward. How that impacts some of the coaching decisions. Hopefully, guys, inside of the post, you can see. You can share this if you like. Please share this. If you guys are in there, tag other friends, tag other members of the group inside of here, so we can just get this going. We'll be on here for probably the next 30 minutes, just kind of chopping it up. Once again, I call this our real Piston fans, real talk. So this is like how we feel about it, things we see, things we're hearing. So I'm just going to open it right off the bat. We'll just kind of go around, and I'll start with Reginald. How we feeling about this Blake Griffin situation of Blake Griffin being timed out?
It was one of the things that we knew it could possibly happen. I thought it was going to happen a little bit later on this season, like closer towards the trade deadline. But obviously, with them moving roles, with honestly, with him having his injury management and getting the opportunity to see the young guys in a different role, specifically Sadiq Bey. It might have been one of those things where Blake said, "You know what? I did what I essentially set out to do this season. Let me step back, negotiate this, so y'all can move along." So, like I said, I just didn't think it was going to happen this quickly, but it was one of those situations where we knew it was eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
Presented itself.
Chris, how you feeling about it?
I'm gonna just piggyback on what Reg was saying. I'm a little surprised that it's happening this soon, but I mean, it's something that we knew was going to happen. And like he said, there's a lot of factors that are in play. Like, and you've said this plenty of times, like Blake has been the consummate professional. The way he's approached everything just these last couple of 2.5 years being on the Pistons roster, he has upheld that end. And, he could have said at the beginning of the year, like, look, I'm not really trying to be a part of this. Like what Rose said, like, my knees only have so many miles left.
Yeah.
Like, well, what needs to happen for us to, come to an eventual agreement? And that's why I think it's important to be careful with with the narratives that we're kind of portraying, because there's a lot of things at work that we don't understand or that we're not privy to.
Yeah.
Like, so, it's one thing to wonder, but wonder innocent wonderment is kind of just thinking out loud. Well, I wonder why this is happening. But my issue is that a lot of fans have drawn conclusions to what they think is going on behind the scenes, and that's not really fair to the process or fair to the professionals, fair to the craft of being a professional. So I think that there's a lot at work here that we just don't know.
Yeah. How you feeling about it, Nate?
Well, me personally, I think it should have happened earlier. My main reason behind that is that we've watched Blake totally be a shell of himself. And anybody, especially guys that have played before, we know, Chris, same thing. So we know how it feels when you're not able to perform at a certain level. And when you think about it, Blake hasn't had a single dunk since 2019. And coming from a guy who came out as one of the more explosive athletes that we've seen at the power forward position, now he's regulated to a below the rim guy. He's I only can't even call him athletic anymore. He's almost pedestrian. You know what I mean? So I thought that it would have been done earlier because, like you say, just the fact that he hasn't been healthy, and just him not being able to perform that I know at a rate that he was set for himself. And being the type of stand-up guy that he is, he's not like one of those Josh Smith guys where you're going to pay me just to be on your roster. And that's one of the things like Chris was saying about being a constant professional, being a mentor, things of this nature, So I think that might have been something that he was battling, within himself. Because he knows himself he's not worth $36 million a year.
Mm.
On top of a player option that's another 38 million. So, I think for himself, he knew that also.
So right now we know that for me, the option of waiving him is out of the question. Because you waive him, you have to stretch him. If you're stretching Blake Griffin, we are paying like probably about 10, 12, $13 million over the next 7 years. Or whatever that math work out, we're doing.
You can't do it anyway.
That Josh Smith, right back to Josh Smith all over.
Yeah, so we're not going to do that. So then the next move is if they're talking about trading him, and I'm hearing like I'm hearing some, we're hearing some rumors of who maybe a Miami, maybe a Celtics team is interested. How do you think that plays out? What do you think that look like? Are we getting back like instant? I know we're not getting no first round picks, but are we getting instant like cap space, like expiring contracts, or we're getting or we're going to take on somebody contract? What you think, Reggie?
So in that situation, that's one of those really, really gray areas where we don't know what we're going to get. Because somebody has to see some value of having Blake on their team, knowing that he's hindered the way that he is right now.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Blake has a very high IQ. I believe he can blend in with any roster. What I appreciate about what he did this year is he took a step back, taking less shots, and decided to go more, knowing that he can't get you 20 quality buckets or quality attempts a game.
Right.
So I appreciate that about what he did. So it's one of them situations where a contender has to look and say, okay, Blake is a piece that we can bring in that could possibly get us to the next step. If we're a second round team, he can get us to the conference. If we're actual contender for a championship, that he could be that guy to push us over. And there's not that many teams that have that outlook right now, but also have the assets to give up in order to bring him in. So it's really looking like it might end up being a buyout. Because I just don't see who's going to give up some quality assets or give up something in order to bring Blake in, saying that that's better than what I'm giving up.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris? What do you think if we were to look for some potential partners off the top of your head, where do you think Blake would fit in, or a team that would give us something? And I like I said, expiring contracts is likely the best. Some second round picks is likely the best at this stage. What are you thinking?
I'm sorry.
I think he's losing a little bit. Nate, you with us? Can you hear me?
Still here.
What do you think we getting?
Truthfully, I don't see a lot. Maybe a couple of expiring contracts if we're lucky. But like I say, with Blake being a shell of himself and us not really knowing, what his value is, it's kind of hard to really weigh it out, because when you look at how certain players get traded for certain things versus another guy, it's sort of mind-boggling. It's like, man. So it's really hard because you really don't know what his market is. Now to me, I don't think he has a major market, but I mean, you have to look at him like, is he a starter? Is he a valuable bench guy? Like, what does he has left, and what is his value to a team now?
Yeah, that's good, Chris.
I think I think he'd be a good fit in Portland.
Hmm.
Just
I love
because
him, but I think they
what
much. They're too up and down. You know, when I look at they're too up and down, and they've already got a bunch of ISO players with McCollum and Dame Dollar and Carmelo. I mean,
I
I
think
thought
that would work.
in it.
I think
Go ahead, Chris.
Go
I
ahead.
think he would work with the shooters though. No. I said I was not to cut you off, but I think he can work with the shooters because you got to think about it. Like they don't in Detroit. They don't believe us as shooters. So that's the
Hmm.
thing. Like so they'll take. You see a lot of digging on him in the post. You see a lot of flat out just double teams, like trying to disrupt him. I feel like if he went somewhere with like just above average shooting, a lot of those double teams you would see it. Maybe you can see Blake kind of reinvent himself as just like a small um, post threat, like a Draymond Green who operates from the post. He wouldn't necessarily operate from up top as much as Dre does, but you can put him in the mid post and in the low post, and like teams aren't going to help if you got CJ out there, if you got Dame out there, you got Gary Trent Jr. Now the question would be, what would they give up for that? But I'm not gonna lie to you. If they're saying that they're willing to do a buyout, I'm gonna lean more on the fact that he'll be bought out rather than traded.
Yeah.
So my only buyout concern, I see, and I'm gonna say this, I'm not an expert, but when I did my study on the buyout, and I could be misunderstanding. So if you guys who are listening, you got a better understanding, drop it in. I'll read it back. Because he still has an expiring contract, unless he waives his player option, meaning he's waiving his player option, we would have to pay him through next year. So even if you buy him out, we won't be able to reap the benefit on our salary cap until next year,
Exactly.
unless because he has a player. If this was his last year, then we only paying this year. But because unless he literally I waive next year, we still can't get the benefit of that versus our cap until next year. So the negotiation would be, I think we owe him 58 million. Typically, the negotiation is we'll buy you out for less than your contract.
Exactly.
So maybe the Pistons say we'll give you 50, and they agree on 50 versus 58. So the Pistons save $8 million, but we still don't get the benefit of that until next year. On that, on the end of it, like we still don't. It still be like $38 million or whatever, $30 million. The difference of it next year on the buyout. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But just to go back real quick,
Well, that's clear.
when Chris was saying as far as teams doubling, the last couple of games I've seen Blake get single covered, on the block by guards. Like he's not getting that type of respect anymore. Especially today, I'm like, wait a minute, like, dude, you can't bag him down. Like, what's going on? So I don't think he's going to garner that much team anymore. To where, and then Portland, most of their guys, they're like off the handle guys. They're not like spot up shooters like Corver and Redick and things of that nature. These guys like to create their own off the bounce.
And even with that, they still got Carmelo on that team too. So I don't know if you want to bring in another guy that honestly to the post the way.
But they're a little thin. They got a great
post, but it's just weird. I did see this one trade offer. They got one with Denver. It says Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, and a second round pick.
I think that.
Now in that situation, Paul Millsap still viable.
Drive for that, but damn, I said I drive into the airport for that. I just don't see that happen.
You still get the expiring contract with Paul Millsap, and Harris, he just is. They got
a ball player
there.
But let me show this. So here's the thing. So let me jump ahead. I'm just jumping a little bit. So let's just say we take that trade. Let's just say we do. How many years Millsap have left on this deal?
One more.
So he has one more year. So Millsap now comes in, and he's replacing those same minutes we were just now thinking about giving to Sadiq Bey, correct?
No.
I think he takes those minutes from more of the dormant Sekou that doesn't seem to want to gravitate or take those minutes. I see more of Sadiq Bey and Beef Stew urgently wanting these minutes, where I will hope that, it would trigger something in Sekou to say, hey, this is my opportunity. And then when he gets out there, like he's lost, I'm like, what is going on with this guy?
I'm gonna let Chris jump in, but I actually think that Sekou would be packaged with Blake Griffin. I really don't. I don't see the Pistons holding on to Sekou. I see them actually packaging him with Blake Griffin.
So right now, Paul Millsap has a $10 million expiring contract right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he would expire at the end of this year. So
okay, that's not bad.
He wouldn't even be in the way.
Yeah, that's not bad. Chris, what you thinking?
Well, listen, I ain't even thinking about Millsap. I'm thinking about Gary Harris. If there's some way, because what Gary Harris is going to do is he's going to defend. Like, and his offensive game is solid too. It's just he's been hurt. And the first thing that, it's hard to come back and and I actually liked the way he played it when he came back in the playoffs last year, because he didn't force it. He let the offense come to him, but he came back and immediately started playing defense. So that was something.
And he's playing really solid right now. He's a
capable offensive player.
He's averaging 10 and 2 right now. He's shooting 45% from the field, 33% from the field.
What is he playing, like 16 minutes?
No, he's playing 30.
30?
He's playing 30 minutes for them.
Wow.
He started 18.
I mean, different scenery. Like we saw that. I mean, and that's another thing. You might get lightning to strike twice. Getting two guys from Denver that saw their roles reduced because of obviously the amount of firepower they got. They got Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr., and then they got Barton.
Right.
And then that's the kicker too.
That would be a guy that I think has sort of disappeared a little bit in Denver. Has been Will Barton.
Yeah, Will Barton's a good player.
Now, but the only downfall about that is now you're going to be overloaded at that 2-guard spot.
I was just ready to say you do get overloaded at that 2
because you like you say you've got Josh Jackson, Svi show whatever he is.
Ellington is out of here after Blake.
I mean, truly is Dennis Smith Jr. a better 2-guard than a 1? I mean, you're going to be overloaded.
You know how I feel about that. You know how I feel about that. You just got to put the best. You got to put who plays. But at the time, no. But I want to. But how loyal are y'all really to Speed though? I mean, it's that's all I want to know.
It's not so much
Speed, but Speed.
But this is my thing about
you gonna lose sleep if Speed.
Now, what I would try to do
your connection is terrible.
If I'm moving Blake and I'm targeting Denver, I'm looking at like a Bowl or RJ Hampton or something.
Yeah, give me that Bowl. Give me that Bowl. I just want him here. I just want him here for Nate. Give me Bowl for Nate.
Bowl, man.
Nate gonna be talking about his knees and his feet every night. He is.
You know this.
Right now, Gary Harris.
Give us the black boba.
His contract is $20 million and expires next year. So you still, you give him an audition, see how good he is. If he's not good, you get $20 million and expiring.
So I want to be clear. Go ahead,
PJ. What's the other kid's name?
RJ Hampton.
No. The one that number 30.
Come up that early.
The guy that was coming off the bench.
Forrest?
No, not Monte. The kind of the wing forward hybrid.
No, he's
PJ Dozier.
The guy that wears a headband. I know his name.
You talking about PJ Dozier?
No,
Yeah.
Not
no, that's what I'm talking about. You talking about Hampton?
No. He's a wing. He wears a headband. He gives LeBron's flux all the fuck.
Dozier.
No, it's not. No, it's not Dozier.
Reginald on it. He's looking it up right now. While we figuring it out, guys, if anybody want to call in, I do have a call-in number 313-473-9193. If you guys want to call them real quick and drop a comment, you can just hit me up on that number and we'll buzz you in, guys. If you want to call in, that's 313-473-9193. You want to come in, drop a comment on something we said. So the other conversation we had was how this opens up the door now for Saddiq Bey. So I'm gonna do my little Saddiq Bey rundown. I'm a big fan because this draft to me, I wanted a wing player. I was saying it from the beginning to the end. I wanted a wing player. We couldn't get one early. It just did my heart good that we landed Saddiq Bey even at 19. It did my heart so good because I wanted a wing player. And this is what I like about wing players. What we're seeing about Saddiq Bey is what I wanted, a guy who's versatile, who can score, who can do multiple things. Even right now, I would say right now he's older, but right now he's better than a guy like Okoro, who I really like.
That's like no.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No, I'm saying it. Now, I don't think he's better than Patrick Williams, but he's definitely better than Okoro right now, who is like almost 2-3 years younger. But I like the guard. I like that wing player position. I like that is filled. It look like he has a lot of promise, a lot of hope. So where did this start to propel Saddiq Bey going forward? Because now almost unless there's an injury, unless there's something unforeseen, he's almost locked in no less than 25 minutes a night. No less. I mean, he probably getting up to a 30 depending on conditioning, health, and everything. But he's no less than 25 minutes a night now going forward. Where do you guys look for him? How do you look for him to continue to grow? Potential hiccups he may see, or anything you've seen in his game that you think that we should start to take notice more of. Anybody want to start first?
Go ahead, Chris. I'm with you.
So I was gonna say, I was one of those dudes that was on Saddiq Bey's head. I love the fact that Weaver got another couple picks targeted him. Huh? What is that?
No, you got it. I was got it.
So I was saying,
Chris' connection is bumpy.
But the one thing I like about Saddiq Bey, he has so much versatility that you can plug him in. If you want him just to focus on defense, he can do it. He can knock down open shots. He can do it. I started to see him post up, which I would love.
Yes.
He learned that from Blake. That post ups came from Blake. But go ahead.
Yeah, he can post up with a vengeance.
The parts that he was struggling with a little bit, I think he was actually kind of hitting a little bit of a wall earlier, and that's why Casey brought him out. Let him get his bearings back, and then start playing them even more again. So, and then the fact that he is older, he's got a couple years in college. It allows him to make adjustments quicker than somebody would, like a younger player. But I'm really excited to see this kid play, man. See him develop, to see what he turned into.
I'm looking at one of the comments. Someone said they could see us sending Blake to the Spurs. Sending off to the Spurs. So somebody had said that in one of the comments. I just want to give them make sure I read off one of the comments. Guys, I appreciate you guys joining in on this live stream. We are talking to Blake Griffin timeout, that they've been timing out Blake Griffin, that this is going to open up time for some of our younger players. We talk about potential trades. There's a phone number. If anybody want to call in, drop a comment, 313-473-9193. We got my man Nate. We got Reginald. And we have my guy Chris. And we just chopping it up. And this is what we call our real Piston fans, real talk segment. So we just chop it up and just give our feeling about things that are going on and narratives that are in this group. One of the narratives definitely I wanted to be able to, and I know we all kind of feel differently about it, but we feel the same. My big thing is I appreciate the process.
Is it C3 or C4?
Oh, I said I appreciate the process. Only reason I appreciate the process because to me, when we came to the season, said we're going to develop. A lot of people's questioning Casey, said Casey has never developed any talent, and now we're looking at the results of talent that, like, we want to see Saddiq Bey, we want to see Isaiah Stewart, we want to see DeLon Wright, we want to see the Josh Jackson, because these are guys who he took under his wing 30 games in. Now we can't get enough of them. You know what I mean? We want to see these guys all the time. So I feel like no matter what our record is, we got to give Casey some kudos, and he knows how to develop young talent. So my question is, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna say this because I seen what he's done with DeLon Wright. Because I seen what he's done with Josh Jackson. I always thought Sadiq Bey had talent, but I seen the way Sadiq Bey game has improved in a matter of 10 to 15 games from when he couldn't make a layup to now he's, scooping and dunking on people. The other night he dunked on. I was like, oh, he had that in his game.
Yeah.
It gives me hope for Killian Hayes. It gives me hope.
Nope. Well,
it gives me hope. It gives me hope. Because it tells me he can get a guy.
It gives me hope that they could trade him and then he'll still have some value because people will see like he's still young, blah, 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 blah. Because remember, they was killing me, Reginald and Bo.
And me.
Me.
Hey, look, remember I was talking about the difference and they were talking about, of course Obi's going to look better. He's such and such old. Halliburton's going to look better. He's such and such old. Like, well, wait a minute. You want that maturity when you get into the season because he's already there. His mind is mentally established where a younger guy is so much easier to break. He's very, very fragile. Where when you get that older guy who's been in college, he's played through the bumps. He's went through the tournament. Because you got to think about it. In college, with the tournament, you're roughly looking at what, 40, 45 games in a year?
Yeah.
Depending on so that right there is an improvement, and that's what's going to help your mind because you're playing into a season deeper. Your legs aren't going to go as fast. You're adjusting on the fly. You're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the younger guy is like, oh man, they're not as mentally strong as an older
the game
guy.
is still fast. It's really, really fast. Like in that we we all didn't kind of aired out how we felt about Killian. We all aired out about what we wanted. The guy that I wanted was a 2-year player in college. And there was a reason why I wanted him because he had skills that translated to the NBA now.
Right.
Like if you play defense, if you can pass the ball, you shoot efficiently, you have versatility, positional versatility. I want that because there's not much that we're going to have to worry about you breaking on when you get into the league.
Right.
With Killian, the one thing that kind of hurt us was like, well, bro, I'm going to need you at least to be able to handle the ball. If you want to be a lead guard or you want to have the ball in your hand as much as you're going to have it, I need you at least to be able to handle the ball.
Well, I don't think we're going to see it this year. I don't think we're going to see it this year, but I think we will see it. I'm like I said, I'm believing in what I'm seeing in development. I'm believing we'll see it next year. We're not going to see it this year.
You're not going to see it this
year. I think we're going to see it next year.
I think they are literally going to. He's dribbling the ball right now with his limp with a limp.
But you know what? But this is the thing.
He got it.
And this has always been one of my points is that regardless how much you practice it, it has to be a certain mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a scorer. You know what I mean? If you're going to come into this league and you're saying, and people are expecting him to take this jump, but you have to look back, even from his games from high school to international, he's never been a scorer. So why would you expect this guy, to come to the NBA and be a scorer? It's like, no, that's not how it's not how it works.
So we got Sadiq Bey, right, who just came off of Player of the Week, right? His Player of the Week for rookies. He was Rookie Player of the Week for the East. So, Chris, the last conversation, and I'll let you jump in. How do you project him from here down to kind of finish the end of the season? Just based off you seeing loose projection, you ain't got it. It's not finite. Just based on what you're seeing, now he likely going to get consistent minutes. You kind of seen where his role is as he got kind of like that green light. How do you see him finishing this season? You don't have to give me numbers. But what do you think it can look like for him to finish the rest of this season?
Honestly, I'm thinking 9 to 13. I know you said I didn't have to give you numbers, but I think that he can be a productive player. But this is kind of we were talking about this earlier. We were talking to Barack is that sometimes chopping up, how the minutes can contribute to softening the wall that these young players are going to hit. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. You know at some point they're going to hit a wall, like where the production kind of falls off relatively.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect that in some ways to where it's not confidence shattering. Because sometimes guys
That's
can
it.
just hit it, and the biggest part of them getting back into it is just restoring their confidence. So right now,
Michael Carter.
he's had a couple bad games, on the stage. So, and he's had some good games in between, which kind of is good for your confidence because you now know I can have a good game as well as I can have a bad game. So I think
Yeah.
that's better for sustainability. So going forward, I mean, I think he'll be pretty productive. Uh, but it's how you view production. If it's about winning and losing, then you're gonna be disappointed. But if it's about just seeing, if it's about seeing if the kid got game, I mean, he's gonna show you got game. But the team is gonna struggle for sure. Like
Yeah.
that's you got to be okay with that. Like you got to be okay with looking at a game and saying, "Damn, we might have just got beat by 20 points, but." He looked good doing this. He's rebounding well. That's really what I want to see. I want to see him kind of matched up with bigger players. And it was a
Yeah.
matchup early in the season where he was kind of matched. I forget who he was guarding. He might have been guarding I forget, but he was, just guard bigger players. I just really want to see the versatility there work. Keep pulling guys out with the jump shot. I want to see him continue to try to make plays off the bounce. The post game looks really solid, but just making plays off the bounce, guarding bigger players. That's going to be the biggest thing that I watch for with Sadiq Bey. And I know that we were off Killian, but I kind of wanted to touch on that.
No, go
Really,
ahead.
my expectation for Killian is I just want to see, and this is how I feel about Lonzo Ball. I just want to see, I don't really care about you missing shots and not scoring. But my thing is be 6'5". Like I want to know every time I'm watching you that you 6'5". Like that's all. Like if you play 6'5", you gonna like that's really like Lonzo at least plays 6'5" on defense. Like
Right.
we at least know that he's long and active on defense. I like if Killian get to a point where it's like I'm 6'5" on offense. I may not be the most skilled offensive player, but if I'm down here and I got a 6'3" guy checking me or a 6'1" guy
Yeah.
checking me, I'm gonna finish a play. Or I'm looking over the defense, seeing passing lanes that aren't there. Like I'm playing 6'5". I'm not letting the guy that's shorter than me chop me down the size.
That goes
Yeah.
back to our Zoom call that we talked about. We were talking about how he's not explosive at all, and going to the rim, like dude, he couldn't make a layup over a shorter guy, and we're like, dude, he's 6'5". Like, wait a minute, you don't have to have a 40-inch vertical to make a layup over a 6'1" guy.
Right.
But you know what? When you back to kind of Sadiq Bey, what I do want to see is him being able to go one-on-one a little bit more, be able to create for himself. I think that's the next step. Because what I'm actually looking to see is who's going to be the secondary and third option off of Jeremy Grant. Now, right now, the number 2 option right now is Josh. Josh has been really aggressive, going to the cup, stuff like that. I want to see a little bit out of that, out of Sadiq Bey. I did like when he was defending Zion Williamson last night. He was getting physical with him. He stripped him a couple times, so he got good hands. So I think he can actually survive playing at the 4 a little bit or against bigger players.
Nope, he got bounced a couple of times too.
But you still talking about a freak of nature though. Like we talking about a 280-pound man.
Yeah, and you know this, Lane. You just really want him to be able to hold his head,
Yeah, I just want you to be able to
his
hold
own.
every
That's
now and
all.
again. Like if I see you switch off, I don't want them abusing you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't want it to be like, oh yeah,
Drill a
we
little bit.
going
Got a
there.
foul.
Like,
yeah, I did it. Like, and what? Like, so.
No, I know, no, but I was just joking.
I don't want it.
But Sadiq, he has a great and a very strong competitive nature.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bigger things, and that comes from, like I say, and I either when you look at guys that play in college versus overseas.
Villanova.
Go ahead, Reg. My fault.
I was saying Villanova.
Yeah,
No.
right.
Like
So
Villanova is they were they go into the tourney, they looking to do something. They looking
exactly. So that competitive nature is there, and like I say, playing overseas to me, it's a different game. It's not as physical. It's not as grinding.
It depends on where.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
So that's what we're talking about.
But the Euro League, it's not as much but like when you look at it's I forgot the name of it, but one of the teams is Brazil, and I'm trying to think what league that is, but it's super physical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, super physical.
Talking about where Luis Scola and all them were playing at.
Yeah, Keith Appling, hope my dog get himself together.
Man,
but no, that league like that where it's like, man, is these guys playing jail ball?
Mm-hmm. But that's what I was telling people too. There's a difference between where Luka played and where Ball was playing and where Killian was playing. Like there's a different level of competition there.
It is. So we lump overseas all into one category.
It's not.
We hear overseas.
It's like it's 20 leagues, and they do have a hierarchy.
A lot of people.
I mean, it was something I learned. It was like I learned, and this is way before Killian. Like, cause when people just say overseas, I used to think that everybody was just kind of clumped in. I thought there was like an overseas league, and it was like Italy versus this. But you find like there's an Italy league, and there's like 5 Italy leagues. Yeah. And then there's a top tier Italy league. Then there's like a bottom tier Italy league, and there's a top tier this league and a bottom tier. So I think that when we say, like I think Chris just said, when we say overseas, for a long time we just kind of took it like we think overseas, we think Manu Ginobili, we think Dirk Nowitzki, we think all of the best players, and then you find out there's really like there's an overseas league that's just like the G League. It's like the G League. Not saying they aren't good, but it's like you level talent. You know what I mean?
The Euro, one of them is Euro Elite. So, it's like wow. It's like you say, it is a vast thing of being overseas. But there's so many different subsidiaries that people really don't know. So when you say overseas, okay, so he played in China, he played in Germany. Like, no, wait a minute, that's a totally different league. Mm-hmm. It's the same way as in college where you have the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big East and the Ivy League. So all the same way as overseas.
D1, D2, D3.
Yeah.
But that was the other thing too. Like we were talking about Killian, and we were talking about the hierarchy and where he played and stuff like that. And when you have a player that he had some success relatively in whatever league that he was in, the reason I was kind of leery about what was happening is because when I found out Weaver had been scouting him since he was 16, I kind of felt like he fell in love with the kid,
right?
Kind of ignored the game,
and
it can happen. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to chalk him up as a mistake because we've seen. We had, people was tripping him out.
Late bloomers
over here, or he brought Grant over here, and they struggled during the preseason a little bit, and then next thing they ball, and everybody like.
And that's what I go back to, like a DeLon Wright. Like earlier on in the season, we was all like DeLon Wright, like why is he in there? And now you see a little bit time. So this is what me and Chris was talking a little bit, Barack, and I ain't trying to talk about nobody who's not on here, but this is kind of like what I was saying to Barack. It's like, how much time sometimes when we got to look at the system, the process, the practice, are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are they gelling as a team? Like when I watch these guys play now, when I look at before, it looked like they didn't know what to do. So even when Blake Griffin was there, it's like they was waiting for Blake Griffin to do something and they respond to Blake Griffin. Like 15, 20 games ago, they wait for Blake to do something and then they respond to him. Even the last game when we played with the Substance, Blake Griffin, these guys are moving. They're cutting
without
him, in sync, even with him or without him. Like it's like he was just a part of it and no longer the centerpiece of it. And that speaks to the gelling of a system in a team. Even though you put a big kudos to Mason Plumlee, you put a Mason Plumlee, and Mason Plumlee is dropping passes, making all the right decision. It speaks to a system of time that these guys have now trusted each other to be in the right space. And this is so kind of bringing it back to Blake Griffin contract. This is where you have to be careful, Blake Griffin contract. Because if you do the wrong thing and you take on the wrong contract, when it's time to pay Josh Jackson, when it's trying to pay DeLon Wright, when it's trying to pay those guys, Blake Griffin contract can pay those guys in next year because his money be gone. Now you can pay those guys whatever you think they're worth. If you don't handle that contract right and you end up losing cap space out of this, now let us say you may not have enough to give Josh Jackson what you think he may deserve or what he need.
Right.
You may not have enough to keep DeLon Wright on for another year or two to get Killian or Dennis Smith Jr. Or if Dennis Smith Jr. explodes, like if he goes off in the last 15 games,
he's
and he just now you got to think now he's a restricted free agent this year, so you have to pay him this summer. You have to make your decision on Dennis Smith Jr. Really, he's auditioning in the last 40 games because you're like, are we going to make him a restricted player? Are we going to sign him to something extended? So that front office moving, I said it before, when you move Blake Griffin contract, I have no problem. This is not me advocating. Blake Griffin's a good guy. Keep him. I love what he did. I love his integrity. I'm an integrity guy. So I like people who operate when I see stuff, they operate in it. So I just
it's like important.
And yeah, that's what I said. I'm a big Blake Griffin could have handled this season totally different. He just the
True, he could have handled the whole trade different.
Yeah, but he could have just made it like messy from day one. He could have been like, I don't want to be here. I'm faking, and it just puts a bad vibe about your city, your team, everything. So I'm not saying we keep him in the starting lineup because of that, but I love the way he handled it. And I just like Derrick Rose, I believe that the way he was sent him to where he want to go or wherever he may be the best off, whatever happened, I'm okay with those things. But I said it to say, but on the money side, we have to think about how that buyout or trade will look when you're thinking about now we want to lock in Josh Jackson. If Dennis Smith pops suit, how are you going to lock in the Dennis Smith? If you want to keep DeLon Wright for one more year, he could be a late bloomer. I'm looking it up. Kyle Lowry breakout year was at 27. You know what I mean? And now he's still giving you good play up until about 34, 33. It's like you got to start thinking about that money-wise. And I don't think a lot of times we look at that. Like you said, it's the behind the scenes aspect of the game because you got to. It's the long ball. It's the long game. You know what I mean? So
I was saying earlier in my post, I said if the move doesn't hurt you long term, doesn't hurt that because I'm looking at the contracts now. DeLon Wright, he's expiring next year, $8 million. Dennis Smith expires at the end of this year, $5 million. Josh Jackson expires at the end of next year, $5 million. So you're looking at. If you add up all the expiring contracts, you're looking at about $59 million in expiring contracts.
And that's Blake's deal.
And that's including Blake. Now, that gives you versatility. And that goes back to the moves that Weaver made. He didn't make any moves where he was dedicated to any one player for an extended amount of time with a huge contract. They're all movable, tradable assets.
And the only time those little deals bite you is like what you're seeing with the Josh Jackson, because you're seeing Josh Jackson coming into his own. Now you start to think, man, do we have to lock him in? Do we have to lock him in?
And that was the point I was going to bring up.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
And that was the point I was going to bring up. And that's tough because you got a fan base, right? You got a fan base that gets excited. Like, to be honest with you, like, you know, we've talked about this, we've joked about this, you know, in the groups. As much as people say that they're ready for a rebuild, we're always looking for something that can speed it up. If this guy plays well, these 3 or 4 guys play well. Oh my God! Okay, look, if we do this and do that, we're gonna be playoff team. And sometimes you gotta say, hey, look, you gotta pass the trout up to get the marlin. So, like, if you know, yeah, it's cool. You know, you might need to just wait till you catch one big fish. Because don't get it wrong, like, you know, you could mess. It's kind of like what the Lakers did. It's not completely a linear situation, but it's not an exact fit. But you know, they had a decent core. I mean, they could have kept Ingram and Ball and Randall and all that, and tried to make that work. But after a while, they saw a bigger play, and that's kind of how the Pistons got to treat it. Like, yeah, we're gonna get some guys that you got to realize. Somebody's gonna, like, it doesn't matter whether you win 10 games a season or you win 50 games a season. Somebody's going to lead your team in scoring.
Yeah,
Somebody's going to lead it in rebounding.
yeah.
Somebody is going to stuff the stat
That's
sheet on a
good. No,
bad
that's
team.
good. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
And that's the thing. Like and we gotta realize, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I've tried to be careful because here's the thing. I'm gonna be dead honest. I was a person that was a little on the fence about Jeremy Grant.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't sure of his one-on-one game. I wasn't sure of his shooting. I'm still a little iffy on his shot creation because I don't think his handle is quite elite enough as a shot creator. But I think he plays hard, which puts him in a great position to score. But like he's leading the team in scoring. They're a bad team. I think that on a great team, he's a third option, a second, like maybe a second. I think on a great team that is going to be competing for a title, he's a second to third option at best. So that's what I'm saying. We need to like, and I like Josh. I hope Josh continues to get better, and I would love to keep Josh in the city. You know what I mean? I love when hometown guys get to play for their hometown teams, but we need to not be. I think we as fans need to not be so easily willing to give the guys that we see play well, especially on bad teams.
And
Like,
that goes back to what I was saying for months about Christian Wood. Christian Wood's contract coming in, they were saying, okay, look, we brought him in. He converted from a non-guaranteed to a guaranteed. And this is where we as a fan base, we got to start, doing our research because they were saying if you sign him to a contract that's at the league average, his cap hold was only 1.7. So that meant you could cash him out for that $10 million and still maintain all your cap space, which would have done wonders for Detroit. That means you can sign Christian Wood, go get Jeremy Grant, and still make all the other moves that you made. So that's what I was telling people. Like, there was nothing wrong with Weaver offering him the contract that he did because he was looking for the long term of the team, not just the player. And he was saying, look,
Right.
I'll take care of you to a point, you know what I'm saying? But we're trying to build something here. Now, it's up to Wood. Now, Wood want to go and play for Houston. And, at the time, he thought he was going to go play with Harden and Westbrook. I understand. And there's no state tax. So you're making more money. But
and look, you gotta do what you gotta do for you at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I
we just had
mean,
my man Jamal join us a little bit. We got about 10 minutes left on here. So what I'm gonna do is give Jamal a little chance to get in, and then I'm gonna do a little round robin close out where you get to finish up some of your closing thoughts. So Jamal, what you got for us, brother?
Hey, I'm ecstatic. Blake is no longer not on off the roster, but not in the rotation. And I've been begging for this since the season started, man. I'm eager to see what these guys can do with him no longer in the roster. I've been begging for this. So expect big things from Sadiq Bey. And even I expect Steve Mikhailuk to play a little bit better too.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. And once again, I look at it this way, and like I said, we all can agree to disagree. I'm thankful because I did a video. In my video, I said this is kind of what I thought was going to happen. So I didn't really answer that earlier. I know some people said, "Oh, they wish it happened earlier." Some people said, "Oh, I'm surprised it's happening right now." This is kind of like where I projected it at. I literally said about 30 games in, I saw late minutes getting ready to go down, or he'll be benched, or they talk about the buyout. I really, 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 and this is a conversation me and Chris had. I really think what we saw was these guys have not played basketball in 8 months. They were not in game shape. They wasn't in game conditioning. They didn't know the system. They didn't know each other. They had to learn all this stuff on the fly. It takes time. And then you're not even doing it in regular time frame. You're doing it in the time of COVID where you're holding practices on Zoom. Like you're holding meetings and discussions on Zoom. It's not even like in person. So I think this time frame lines up with giving Blake that opportunity to do whatever he had to do, giving these guys opportunity to get their legs up under them. Chris said it perfectly. You helped them kind of get past the rookie wall without. So there was a stretch where Sadiq Bey did not play good basketball. He just didn't know. You can say Blake didn't play good basketball. That's fine. But Sadiq Bey was very limited because he was a jump shooter and he was not shooting well. This helps you get past that rookie wall. That and now he's in that second leg. It's like he has his second win, and now we're seeing the results of it. And everybody's playing well. Josh Jackson's playing well. DeLon Wright is playing well. Um, Isaiah Stewart is playing well. Like, everybody's playing well together, and I think this was a big, in my opinion, I think this was a big part of Casey playing. I think this was a big part of Weaver's playing. I think Blake being ready to get sat, benched, timed out, waiting for a buyout, waiting for a trade. I believe this is all part of their plan, and we're not getting enough kudos to front office. So if that's my wrap up, closing thoughts, I'm gonna give Chris a chance. You want to wrap up a thought, Chris?
Yeah, like I said, as always, I enjoy being on here with you, good brothers. So I think everybody kind of gave a lot of good information. That's really what it's about. The great information about this team has got to be what's undefeated. Like as long as we give it great information, I'm good with it. But just to kind of piggyback on what you said, like. But this is a process. It's kind of like we talked about it earlier, like with Killian. Like, I mean, when we were saying a lot of times it's semantic, especially over the internet, because context always gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a situation where, like, guys ain't played in a long time. And then it's a situation where, like, it's a process. Like, it takes anybody, like, unless you're the elite of the elite. Like, you even look at, like, take the Clippers, for example, and they're on a larger scale. Like, they had issues that came back to bite them late. And it shows that they were beating people off talent alone, off elite talent alone. So just imagine not having elite talent and still trying to figure out things like chemistry. And that's what you get with the Pistons. Like, you got a situation where you got guys that are in hopes of being elite or trying to get to those type of ceilings, and they're trying to figure it out, all while trying to figure out a new situation. So the word for me, and I'm gonna be done, is patient. Like, we have to remain patient and remain constant in the approach. We have to accept that there are going to be ups and downs. The beginning of the season was a down. And right now we're in a little bit of an upstage. We've got a winning streak, and like there's something for fans to be excited about and be encouraged about by certain players. But when the next down happens, and it's coming, believe me, it's coming. We as fans need to be prepared to take it and take it in perspective and not be willing to burn the house down because it's a little bit of smoke. We just got to put the fire out and realize that it's a process, a rebuilding process. A lot of things are going to go wrong before they go right. That's just a process. It isn't a straight line. And that's kind of my deal. We have to stay patient and stay constant and realize that this is going to be a process that could take 2 to 3 years, and really stay constant and realizing that it for sure can take that long. It might come quicker, but you have to be prepared for the long haul as well.
And that goes down even to like the game to game type deal, because game to game, our mood tends to fluctuate. There's going to be a win or a loss and a win. But even down to the minutes that a kid will play. Like the other game, Sadiq Bey had 27, right? He came in the third. He played not deep into the fourth, but into the middling point of the fourth. And Casey brought him out because he was gassed. And everybody was losing it. No, leave the hot kid in. I'm like, no, he's gassed right now. He's getting killed on the defensive end right now. I seen him blow 2 assignments. Everybody focusing on the offensive end, but forgetting there's another side to the court. Yeah. So he brought him out. Yeah. And then, it was looking a little strugglish, like they was struggling to score. And then he brought him in with 2.5 minutes in. And what happened? He came in, knocked down a 3, and everybody, oh, yeah, that's what they got to keep him in. I'm like, no. The kid was gassed. He came out for a reason.
Hold on, but to that detriment, this has been a constant of Dwayne Casey and his inept substitutions. It ain't just like okay, that but time might have been justified
because it's a combination.
I know.
It's a combination of both.
It's been a lot of times where it hasn't been justified, and you done a guy, is getting into the rhythm, and then he sits him, and then you're like, wait a minute, and even the guys looking at him like, hey, I'm good, and then it's like, okay, Casey strikes again. So yeah, now the Sadiq one might have justified where he's missed, those couple assignments, but it wasn't just an overreaction because it was a one-time deal. This has been a constant with Dwayne Casey, and and it's been put on notice that he's done this more than a couple of times, where guys be like, okay, now.
But here's the other kicker though, and that's the other part that I wanted to bring out. We're not sitting on the bench, and we don't know what he's telling his kid. So we don't know if he's saying, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this. Okay? If you don't do it, I'm going to pull you. We're trying to build habits. We're trying to build consistency on certain things.
Exactly.
Now, it's going to be, you're going to get the minutes to do it. But sometimes I'm going to be like, oh, no, you got to come sit next to me, young fella, so you can see what I'm seeing. And and every player that went through that before, you done have moments where your coach came in like, hey, man, come here. Let me holler at you.
Yeah,
and it happens more with a rookie than it does with a vet.
Right.
Like people was tripping about Blake being out there, and I'm like, well, the mental aspect of the game is the struggle with Blake right now. It's the physical, but he's still making other winning plays. My man took 3 or 4 charges the other night, and people was saying that he wasn't playing defense. I'm like, you do know it takes playing defense to take a charge.
Well, and that's the thing, though. We didn't his defense did improve over that game, but I ain't gonna lie to you. It was a couple plays earlier. I just was like, wow, bro.
Because
like,
he physically can't do everything.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And that's the give and take right now.
So I'm gonna give Jamal a chance to get his closing thoughts. I'm gonna make sure we want to wrap it up. We're gonna be here for 2 hours. We can talk.
Yeah, for sure. And my treadmill waiting on me, so
I'm mad because I came at the tail end of this, but everything that y'all been preaching just about is spot on, especially with the patience. What I don't want to see, and I heard bits and pieces y'all talking about it, was this rebuild can't be rushed. You have to be patient. Let these guys develop. I don't want to see what the Clippers do. I don't want us to do what the Clippers did. Trading for Kawhi and PG-13. I think that would be a mistake. Just let these guys develop. And Blake being off the roster, and I, like I said, I've been wanting this for a long time. I'm happy. I'm about to go have a drink.
He said that he was where the Mad Dog at, brother.
When he's officially off the roster, I'm gonna get that Mad Dog 2020. I sure am, man. I'm going to get the Mad Dog 2020, and I'm gonna drink. But I want to ask y'all something though. If he does take a buyout, and I was having this discussion with Mike, is it this year? Because if he's asking for the buyout, I feel like we're not obligated to pay him for the for the player option because he's asking for the buyout.
Well, that would have to be. I'll wrap it up real quick. Then we let Nate get his part and thoughts. It can't be one-sided. A buyout is never one-sided. A buyout has to be both sides. So Blake, when if the Pistons said to him, "We want to buy you out," why would Blake say, "Well, I'm gonna give up my player option"? We don't know.
Well, I'm only saying that because the conversation could have went like this: "Hey, you're going to sit on the bench," and he may not want to take a role coming off the bench on this team. So he could have said, "Hey, can y'all buy me out? Yeah, we can buy you out, but we don't want you to pick up your player option. You can go."
Then I'm saying no, I'm good. I'm saying I'm good.
Okay. Listen,
I'm not giving him $38 million. Okay,
because
I'm not getting nowhere else. I'm good.
Okay, if that's the case, you know what? Then you sit him on the bench, and he could be a $38 million assistant coach until the end of the offseason. And then
I don't think that's what happened, though. I don't think off the integrity of it all. I don't think that's what happened. I think it was a mutual agreement before the season that at about this time there's going to be a buyout arrangement. I don't think that Blake Griffin is necessarily going to give up his player option and do that, but I do believe he's okay with sitting, and I really think he's okay with that. I think Blake, he showed He's willing to sacrifice. He's willing to throw his body out there. He's willing to play hard. He's willing to coach the guys. He's willing to help. I think he's okay with our sitting through into next year. Now I'm into my final year. And if you couldn't work out a trade, now let's think about buyout after this player. After I accept my player option, let's think about a buyout. That's what I see. I just seen that this is something pre-negotiated. But I'm gonna let Nate go ahead. Go ahead, Nate.
I mean, when it comes to him, I think Blake is just. I think he's a true class act guy. So I don't think it went sideways. Like I say, I think all understood, and we as individuals, we know our body better than the doctor do. Yeah, you may look at the X-ray, but I know for a fact something's wrong, even if you don't see it on that X-ray. And Blake being that type of guy, I think, like I say, when they probably talked at the beginning of the year, hey, we're going to see where this team is about midway before the trade deadline. If we're not where we're close to a playoff team or things of that nature, hey, would you be interested in trying to go play for a contender, see if we can move you, so you can get that last hurrah? I'm pretty sure he said sure. And those are the type of conversations that players have with that owner. So
we're not privy to.
Messy. And I think that was, and when you think about it, that was the problem with him and the Clippers owner. Like he said, he was like, hey, I learned about the crap on TV like everybody else did.
Yeah.
So when you have that type of conversation, so you can tell that the front office is moving in a different way to where they have the respect of the players. They're having these conversations with these guys. They're being involved enough to where there's no guessing. They don't have to assume what's being done. Are they going to trade me? Are they doing this? They're letting these guys know up front, hey, this is what we're doing. And hey, and if at 35 games, if we are not here, we'll do our best to move you if you're interested.
Yeah.
And
so guys, well, my bad. I didn't mean cut you, Nate, but
no, that's it. That's right.
Definitely, guys. I always want to kind of wrap this up and keep it in like this hour time frame. So if anybody would decide to play it back, be a good little drive to work, listen to us, go over our little thoughts about what the Pistons are thinking on a bigger scale. But if the more of these type of conversations you want to hold, man, sometimes I apologize to you guys. Sometimes it just be on the fly. Sometimes I just be like, man, I got time. Let me hear. Me and Chris, I'll be like, Chris, I'm ready to jump on about 15 minutes. You want to jump on? But if you ever guys really want to schedule a time, I'm always down and we can chat it up, whatever. But all right, DPC, Detroit Piston News, man. Like, subscribe, share. I got the YouTube link to the channel. I'm going to post this up on the YouTube link. You guys, welcome to listening, man. So I appreciate you guys. And let's see what happens next, man. All right.
Barack, we getting you on here next. If you watching, Barack, we coming for you.
Hey,